Thank you for all of you who are present and supporting our efforts. We have a lot of people here, some who I would like to recognize. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tess Neff, and I am the Juvenile Court Administrator. Today we have President George Taylor on behalf of the Office of County Executive, Director of Public Safety and Justice Services, as well as Dwayne Deskins, First Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, Chief Prosecutor with the Juvenile Division, as well as the Director of Juvenile Crime Prevention. Deputy Chief Wayne Drummond is present on behalf of Cleveland Division of Police and the Deputy Chief of Field Operations. Timothy McGinney, our Cuyahoga County Prosecutor, is here. Sheriff Clifford Pinckney with Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office. We also have Pastor Richard Gibson with the Elizabeth Baptist Church and the Juvenile Court Citizens Advisory Board. Chief Calvin Williams, City of Cleveland Chief of Police, Marty Flask, City of Cleveland Executive to the Mayor for special projects. And finally, Kristen Sweeney, the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court Administrative Judge. If you would please follow through with the agenda, and after you are done speaking, if you would kindly introduce the person following you. So first up, we have the Honorable Kristen Sweeney.
Thank you all very much for being here. It's an exciting day here in juvenile court. This process got started about a year ago. I was discussing the juvenile court with some people who were examining the Cleveland Police Department. And they said that one of the big issues that the police had with juvenile court was the fact that kids were being booked in the adult system. And that is a big problem. It is a bedrock truth of the juvenile justice system that every young person that comes through our system will be rejoining the community at some point. And so juvenile court has an obligation to do no harm. So therefore, no child should be in line of sight and sound of any adult offender. And the problem is that the way the current system is working, in fact, kids in Cleveland who are arrested by the police are in line of sight and sound of adults. And so that needs to change. I learned over the course of this process that if I want anything done in juvenile court, I simply have to tell Dwayne Deskins, and it will get done. And so the first person I would like to thank is Mr. Deskins. He is an incredible advocate for juvenile the kids in this county. He is a pleasure to work with. I consider him to be a close personal friend. And he has been a tremendous force in getting this process done. I would like to thank Mark Major, who from the court was the driving force in helping us get our details done on our end. Mr. Cal Alnazer was our court IT person. You know, I will say there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes when you're doing this kind of initiative. It's nice to be up here celebrating and to get to face the cameras and talk about the good things that are done. But it's important to remember that none of these initiatives get done without so many people working behind the scenes. And Mr. Alnazer was one of our key people in getting that sort of thing accomplished. I would like to thank, in particular, Marty Flask, who came to our meetings and was a driving force for the mayor's office, and Deputy Chief McCauley, who was also a tremendous help in this process. There are still going to be challenges with this going forward. The police have told us that we will need to increase staff in the detention center as we move this initiative along. As with any project, you know, there's always things looking forward. I am always going to be asking for more money to make sure that we can adequately afford to undertake this task. But it is exciting. I'm thrilled that we are starting. I'm glad to be here, and it is my personal pleasure to introduce Prosecutor Tim McGinty, who also made this possible. None of this would have happened with him. I think we're getting to be kind of routine standing together in front of you announcing positive things going on in juvenile court. And I'm really excited that he's here standing with us. And I'm going to, at this point, introduce Tim McGinty.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
I am Tim McGinney, the county prosecutor. It is a great honor and pleasure to be here again. As Judge Sweeney said, it's more good news. We've created more efficiency, eliminated more waste, and eliminated injustice. These are giant steps that everybody is taking together. The juvenile court, our office, the sheriff's department, the Cleveland police all came together in not any one particular order because everybody wanted this done. Everybody saw it, that it needed to be done. We just couldn't get it done. We were just trying to figure a way, and they did. They got together. The old system of taking the juvenile offender to the city and holding them and booking them there and surrounding them with adult criminals was problematic, if not dangerous. It consumed lots of police time. It didn't accomplish anything, and it just delayed the evaluation of the case. So now we're able, thanks to the juvenile court and creating the facilities, to bring the child here. But sometimes these child they're not taken in for minor infractions. They're not taken in for small things. Sometimes they're very, very serious crimes. We have many shootings. We've had many deaths. So these are serious offenses, too, that they're taken in for. But the final decision-making takes place here. And this shows we can be effective, efficient, and work together. So I'm confident these reforms will help the juvenile court fulfill its mission to rehabilitate juveniles and promote public safety. We have made other reforms together here now. The community and the juvenile court and others have notified the prosecutor's office at the subject of our last press conference, that there was inadequate diversion, particularly in the diversions we were screening for the city. We looked at that. We gathered the performance data. We looked at it, and they were right. So we are now have a balanced diversion between the city and the suburban cases of equal, and we will soon reach our goal of 50%, I hope someday, Judge, and someday soon, to divert, sort out the low-level cases this quick and put them into diversion, create these incentives for them to perform and to not get back into trouble again. And then we will focus our limited resources in law enforcement on the habitual violent offenders such as gangbangers, the kids who are involved in extremely violent gangs and responsible for deaths. That we will not dilute the police officers we have in chasing small cases that deserve rehabilitation, are going to get it anyhow, and we bring these children down here right away for the evaluation and make the decision. So no longer will they have to take the arrestee to 3 different places before a decision is made whether to detain or send them home. The police time waste is awful, and the waste of the child's time, because there's a certain percent of them that go home, the parents are brought down and the relatives to pick them up. So we're eliminating the taxi service, and it's a pleasure to see it won't be done, and they won't be thrown in with the older, more criminalized defendants in jail. I call that the college of crime. When we put people in jail unnecessarily, we've enrolled them in the college of crime, and if they're not criminals, they'll become them. So I thank everyone who's worked so hard to make these changes. I know Executive Budish is busy today and he isn't here, but he sent his representative. But he, too, has made it clear that he wants the criminal justice system in our county to change, to become more efficient, to become more innovative, to borrow. All right, we'll steal best practices from across the country. If they're nailed down, we'll pry them up. That these are best practices that other cities have used that were such as this. So I compliment also the mayor, Mayor Jackson, and Chief Williams, and all his staff here. They have pointed out these things that needed to be done, and we've listened. We're sick of wasting police time. We don't want to do it. We want to use it efficiently. We promise that we will, and we'll work with all our partners. And I want to thank you. And I want to also introduce our next speaker, a very distinguished man, a long history of public service to the city, who has put his career and life on the line of duty, as all police officers have, in Marty Flask. He worked his way up from the ranks. I don't want to say I'm old, but Marty, I remember when you were a patrolman. That was a long time ago. And he worked his way all the way up, rank to chief, to then a distinguished service as chief, then safety director, and now he's an assistant to to the mayor and representing our great Mayor Jackson here today, Marty Flask. Thank you.
Thanks, President.
Thanks.
Good morning. This initiative is, without question, the right thing to do. But just because it's the right thing to do doesn't mean it was easy. This initiative required leadership and a commitment from a number of folks, including the county executive, County Prosecutor McGinty, his staff, led by Dwayne Deskins, Judge Sweeney, the county court administrator, Sheriff Pinckney, Chief Williams, deputy chiefs, safety director. We all understood what needed to be done, but it wasn't so easy to have these moving parts, different institutions work together on a project. But once we're underway now, I think we're all very, very confident the next step in this pilot project will expand beyond the city of Cleveland. I think that's ultimately the goal, that juvenile offenders who are taken into custody by law enforcement agencies here in Cuyahoga County will ultimately all be brought here. That's the ultimate plan. This is the first step. We're proud of what we've accomplished. So on behalf of Mayor Jackson and all the citizens of the city of Cleveland, and those who care about juvenile justice and young people in our community, I just want to say thank you to the leadership that's here today in support of this initiative. It really is the right thing to do. Thank you. Dwayne? Oh, sure. This is a little bit of a ceremonial process here, but I'm going to turn over the booking ledger from the city of Cleveland to the county court administrator.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
This is quite a book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Dwayne Deskins, and I have the pleasure of working for our County Prosecutor, Timothy McGinty. And today we announced the historic agreement, the central booking of juveniles, from Cleveland's police districts to the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court. Previously, when a juvenile was arrested in Cleveland, he or she traveled miles from the scene to the police district and then to the city jail, then to the downtown justice center where he or she was booked, and then transported to the juvenile justice center. This roundabout process was very costly to taxpayers, it was inefficient for law enforcement, and necessarily exposed the juveniles to Cleveland's most violent adult offenders. Under the streamlined process announced today, juveniles will be transported from the scene to the district office and then on to the juvenile justice center here. No longer will Cleveland's juveniles be kept within feet of rapists, pedophiles, and murderers such as Anthony Sowell, Ariel Castro, Julius Webster, and others in the Cleveland City Jail. Even the most callous observer would agree that the conditions in the Cleveland City Jail were inappropriate for any minor. Today, we began booking juveniles from Cleveland's 2nd and 4th police districts, the busiest. By early 2016, if our plan proceeds as expected, all juvenile offenders from every Cleveland police district will be booked here at the modern Cuyahoga County Juvenile Detention Center. Central booking of juveniles at the court here will provide added law enforcement resources to the community and to the court. This very streamlined booking process will save Cleveland police tens of thousands of miles annually, the equivalent of driving from Cleveland around the world, and will generate nearly 24 hours of additional community policing every month. Also, the added police presence will provide greater security in the juvenile court detention center. Today's historic agreement would not have been possible, as you've heard before, without the tremendous cooperation of the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court, and especially its Administrative Judge, Kristen Sweeney. And she has been a colleague and a partner in so many initiatives that we have undertaken over the past year and a half. Also, my boss, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Timothy McGinty, our great Cuyahoga County Sheriff, Clifford Pinckney, the Cleveland Division of Police, Chief Calvin Williams, and today he's represented, I believe, by Deputy Chief McCauley. Our Cuyahoga County Executive, Armin Budish, Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson, and the community who are represented here today by Reverend Richard Gibson of the Elizabeth Baptist Church. As members of this great community, we firmly believe, as did Helen Keller, that alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much. In the year ahead, we plan to implement new and better ways to serve you, the people of Cuyahoga County. Please accept our best wishes for a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And I'd like to, at this point, present a ceremonial book to Marty Flass, who's been engaged in this process for nearly 20 years. And finally, he sees the merit and the value of his work paid off. Thank you. I'd like to present the other book to our great county prosecutor, Tim McGinty, an innovator in his own right, who without him, we would not truly be here today. I want to thank him as well.
Thank you. And I want to thank Dwayne. None of this would be possible for our office without Dwayne. Dwayne is the leader of the juvenile system for our office, and I'm very proud of Dwayne and the team he has formed here and the spirit that they have and the work they've been able to do with this court. So thank you, Dwayne, and thank you all.
I would like to now introduce our great court administrator, Tess Neff.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone on behalf of the Juvenile Court Administrative Judge Kristen Sweeney for being here and supporting us, and all the partners involved. It really was a true collaborative effort in the making. And I'd like to open it up for comment if either Mr. Taylor or Pastor Gibson would like to mention anything. Come on up if you do.
Good morning. I too want to commend Judge Sweeney and Dwayne Deskins for their leadership in this area. As we think about our community, as we think about the challenges, and there are many in our community, we are beneficiaries of the change when someone acknowledges an issue, and they don't just acknowledge the issue, but they overcome the inertia. Because there's so much inertia in some areas of our community where nothing gets done, but they have taken the role to step forward and to make sure that this is one of the critical changes to bring about equity within our community. My hope is that this is one of the foundational pieces that will bring about comprehensive criminal justice reform as we need in this community. So I commend you today for the work that you've done and look forward to everyone who's part of the partnership working on those other areas that are still important and vital in our community. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Sure.
How many juveniles are booked each year, or maybe if you have 2014 numbers, and what percentage are from Cleveland?
I can tell you that this project should affect approximately 1,100 kids from Cleveland.
How soon will this go into effect, and how soon do you expect to see some real impact with its implementation?
Well, it started today, and I would say that in the course of this project over the next few months, you're going to be seeing the change. I doubt if you'll see it all today, but I expect you will see it in the course of the next few months as the project gets expanded to all the 5 police districts.
How are you going to measure what happens in a young person's life who was booked here today, starting today, as compared to, let's say, last week? What kind of real systemic change will there be in an individual's life?
Well, first and foremost, as you saw in the PowerPoint, you know, these young people are not going to be sitting next to the worst adult offenders in our community, which the kids in Cleveland were. And so if you want to ask for a positive change, every day, as the judge alluded, every day and every minute that a young person is not exposed to that kind of element is a positive change in a young person's life, as they are young and they're subject to being formed by many events. Certainly those kind of events would be the most serious and most detrimental to their long-term development.
Dwayne, now that you have this excellent facility down there, a lot of people, again, you raised it yourself. What took so darn long to do something that seems so commonsensical?
I'm not sure. Judge,
I will answer that. Part of it is just inertia. I mean, we've been doing it this way for so long, and honestly, nobody was complaining. You know, and I think one of the things you have to understand is that this was not, it may appear to be commonsensical, but it was not easy. I mean, and we still have a lot of things going forward that we're going to need to take a look at and make sure that the staff downstairs don't get overwhelmed. The detention center, by definition, is a challenging place to be, and it's challenging for our staff, and just getting some of the information technology things accomplished. You know, those are big, that's a big deal. So we just take it one step at a time, and we're glad to be here today. And we'll be rolling this out gradually over the course of the next several months. It may even take longer than that, but, you know, because there's a lot of kids that come through this whole process. So, but, yeah, just making change, you know, it seems like it should be easy, but there are a lot of details that go into making those kinds of changes.
So help me.
Could I just add one thing before
Yeah.
we go further? Thanks, Judge. See, this is part of the front-loading effort. You know, we've looked at other systems, and we look what worked at other systems, and if you front-load a system, you put the resources up front, you evaluate the case sooner, you can make the ultimate decision or evaluation of the case now in the first day or hours instead of waiting weeks. And we're doing that all over the system. That's what we're attempting to do. Cleveland's doing it. The sheriff is doing it. The Cleveland Police, the county sheriff. And we're trying to look at all cases, not just juvenile, but juvenile especially, because the harm perhaps is greater, and to do a quick evaluation. Why let somebody sit weeks in the jail before we finally sit down and look at it? We're trying to get attorneys assigned early, eliminate the low-level cases, eliminate the rehabilitative cases, eliminate the innocent, first of all, if we find we've got bad witnesses or bad evidence. There's a mental health component to these cases that is minimal, 10%. I think it's probably higher, far higher, on our repeat offenders in particular. We've got drug addiction issues. We can go to work right on them. And you get them at a moment, and whether it be juvenile or adult, for the vast majority of our low-level cases, you get them at a moment where they want to rehabilitate or they want to go into rehab. They want to address their drug problem. If you delay it, the opportunity is lost. So we're borrowing from others, and we're learning where we're at from performance stats. We've never before, the criminal justice system, including the juvenile court, has had excellent statistics. They're doing, and their administration is doing excellent analysis, setting goals as to how long cases take, what is a more efficient and fair way. And this is something, frankly, we've never done before in the criminal justice system. And why did it take so long to get that shower curtain for big fat guys like me in the shower? It's a curved shower. It took 100 years for somebody to come up with that idea. You know, it took a while. But once somebody came up with that idea, every hotel you go to in America has that big curved shower curtain now. So this is like borrowing the curved shower curtain. You know, it's worked elsewhere. We're going to make it work here. And we learn where we're deficient from our performance. If our processing takes a long time and we compare it to other cities whose processing a certain type of cases faster, we go to that city and look, and well, how are you doing that faster? There are no patents in this industry, and we're free to borrow, and we're learning from the whole process. So this is just one example of what our partnership with the city, the sheriff, and the juvenile court, the common police court, and all the courts we're doing. So this is progress. It's one step at a time. Thank you.
Were children being kept for hours or days at the city jail before they were brought here?
Yeah, that's a police.
Good morning again. I could probably answer that question. But first of all, you know, I've been around long enough, 43 years as a young policeman, to know that most police officers really don't want to deal with juvenile offenders. There really was no place to take them, no one to deal with them other than the police officer themselves. One of the reasons, one of the catalysts, I believe, that kind of drove some decision-making here in a partnership that we've seen here today, it was a consent decree by the Cleveland Division of Police, because it brought people together to have some conversations about how you do business and ways in which that might be improved. We had a receptive ear, people were engaged, people had a little more understanding, and clearly were more willing to enter into discussions about the best way to handle juvenile offenders here in the city of Cleveland. But normally, children who are taken into custody, they're children. They're juveniles, but they still are children. They're taken to the police headquarters building at the Justice Center, where normally they're fingerprinted, processed. They're in an environment which adult offenders are located, but they normally were never confined with adult offenders. After the booking, the fingerprinting, the photographing, all the administrative tasks that need to be done by Cleveland police officers and jail staff, they were taken back to the district, taken to the juvenile detention center, or in some cases, taken home. So the amount of time that, to your question, how long they actually spent in the jail itself was relatively brief. But the fact that they were there is unacceptable.
So they would be booked, fingerprinted at CPU, and then they would eventually be brought here and processed?
They would be brought here, or in some cases, if the detention center, the juvenile court system did not accept them, they would be taken home.